allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Would the Deputy Clerk please call the roll?
Zachary Urban.
Present.
Judy Hutchinson. Here. Amanda Weaver.
Here.
Corey Stites.
Here.
Janice Hoppy.
Present.
Valerie Nosler-Beck.
Here.
Rachel Holteen and Leah Dozman are excused. Mr. Mayor, we have a quorum.
Thank you. We have no ceremonies tonight. We will go to approval of the minutes. I will recognize Mayor Pro Tem Hoppy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have some changes in the minutes. Page 2, item 2, Mayor Starker opened the public meeting but did not swear in any speakers. Page 3, item 3, the second was by Miss Leah Dozman. Page 5, District 4 appointments should read, during discussion, the motion, Councilmember Weaver moved to amend the motion to nominate Jan Southcott to the position, seconded by Councilmember Stites. And then proceeding lower, it should say, Council then voted on the amended motion to appoint Jan Southcott to the Cultural Commission. And then motion by Councilmember Dozman, seconded by Councilmember Stites, strike. Please add under motions by Councilmember Dozman, all seconded by Councilmember Nosler-Beck, to appoint Paul Hovland to the Board of Adjustment ending 3/2/23. Under at-large appointments, Tamio Wright is an at-large, not an alternate. Robert DeVries is an at-large, not an alternate. Under item number 5, it should read Councilmember Hulteen, not Hoppy. And the appointment of Christie should be Kristi. On page 7, under City Managers, a survey is underway to gather, it says peoples. I would like for it to say council and staff's preferences and priorities for coming years in advance of strategic planning retreat in March, because that didn't go out to the general population. And page 8, the mayor also noted excellent quality of the food and service at Hacienda, Colorado. The mayor actually congratulated them on opening, however, he has not been there. That'll complete my changes.
Were there any other further changes to the minutes? Then we will let those stand approved as corrected. Are there any changes to the agenda tonight? Seeing none, we'll go with the agenda as published. We are at citizens' right to speak. Citizens who wish may speak on any matter not on the agenda for a maximum of 3 minutes. I have a list, and when I call your name, if you would come to the podium and adjust the mic, and please give us your first name and last name and spell your last name, give us an address, and the clerk will start timing after that for 3 minutes. Our first speaker is Dorothy Archer and Vivian Voss on deck.
My name is Dorothy Archer, 3640 Marshall Street. Good evening, Mayor, Council, staff, and citizens, and welcome to the new people. Lots of new faces. Hello. Anyway, I just wanted to show up. I haven't been here for a really, really long time, but I'm still in the thoughtful process of reminding Council how important it is to never change residential zones to a PRD. The citizens need to be respected, they need to be cared for, they need to be protected. Our planned residential zones, our MUs, they have been zoned for densities of sorts, but please don't ever step on the residential zones to accomplish density. I also want to remind you, I will continue to address Council on how important it is to readdress the 35-foot zoning with a flat roof. 35 feet with a 15-foot bulk plane. If I remember straight, the many surveys that were done, the citizens were in favor of that. The percentage of citizens were in favor of the 15-foot bulk plane. When your study for the year stopped, your neighborhood people that went around with their interviews and such, the most important thing to the citizens was, please keep the character of Wheat Ridge. And by the way, Wheat Ridge is still a sought-after area. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Vivian Voss and Judy Capra on deck.
Good evening. Vivian Voss, V as in Victor, O, S as in Sam, 6920 West 47th Place. I would like to make comments on the board and commission's applications presented to City Council on February 24th. Are there best practices used by the City Clerk's office for vetting voter registration on those applications, for vetting residency on those applications, and time and date stamping those applications? It was my understanding that the applications were to be in by January 31st by 5 p.m. And as there were plenty of applications, I'm not sure why 2 out of date past January 31st applications were allowed in the packet and for your consideration. It would be nice to have public answers to these questions, if not tonight, then soon. I have served on Planning Commission 3 years and did place my application, which was time and date stamped, in the pool for reappointment. I was not approved as there was an amended name substitute. Councilperson Amanda Weaver then made public comment about me before the vote, saying I was unbecoming a commissioner because I voted yes on a case in planning and publicly spoke against the case. I asked Councilperson Amanda Weaver what fact she used to make that comment, and she said she would look up where and when, and if she was wrong, she would publicly apologize. I did take time to search my name on the City Council for 2019, and I spoke only once, which is on the Jeffco Election Commission Showcase. I have not spoke here at the podium in 2020 until tonight. I also see in the minutes of February 24th that Councilperson Amanda Weaver's comments on myself and Carol Matthews were not reported, and I'm curious as to why that was deemed irrelevant for the public reporting of in the minutes. I took an oath March of 2017 that I will faithfully perform the duties of the Planning Commission for which I am about to assume. I sat through 2, maybe 3 of the city attorney seminars on quasi-judicial and know full well that I could and should not comment one way or the other on a planning case. I have strived to maintain a friendly acquaintance with all of you in the city staff, to city council, to city commissions and boards. Let us remember, do unto others as you would have done unto you. And let us also remember, if you cannot say something nice, then say nothing at all. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Judy Capra and Jerry DiTullio on deck.
Good evening. I'm here tonight representing the Wheat Ridge residents who voted no on 2E. So you need to use your imagination. Standing here with me, you can see 6,000 Wheat Ridge residents. They pack the room and they're out into the parking lots. Well, we're here because we're concerned. Since the election, we've been noticing references to PRDs on various agendas posted online and even on real estate flyers. PRDs, planned residential developments. They make us nervous. The original intent of a PRD may have been good, but we don't like the way it's being used to increase density within neighborhoods. From the moment a PRD is introduced, neighbors need to be involved. In the long run, this would save time, money, and headaches for both the city staff and the developer. And then, as it proceeds, please make sure that everything is transparent. Ideally, this is when we start talking about the ideal situation. We'd like it if the city staff would spend as much time working with us as those of us who actually live near these properties as they do with the developers. So yes, we're worried, but there's good news. We're also hoping for the best. We hope that you heard the voters say no to increased density that was proposed there for Upham, but it's not just Upham. None of us want these R1 and R2 neighborhoods to be rezoned for higher density. We hope the new city council members got the message. During your campaigns, we heard you promise that you would listen to the people you were elected to represent. And from what I'm hearing, people seem to be fairly confident that you will listen to their concerns. There are at least 6,000 people who are paying attention. 6,000. That may be the all-time high voting result for one particular candidate or item. And many of us are part of the silent majority. So we may not come to meetings, we may not speak before city council, but we do care. I want to thank Janice Hoppy for stepping up to improve the rezoning notification process. That's a step in the right direction. Thank you. And finally, and most important, we want to know that our concerns are being heard. Why should we bother to provide input when that input is ignored and ignored and ignored? Or so it seems to us. But as of right now, we're remaining hopeful. So thank you and best wishes for the coming year.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Jerry DiTullio.
Thank you, Jerry DiTullio, Jeffco treasurer and Wheat Ridge resident. I've been making the rounds to different city councils in Arvada, Lakewood, and other cities to talk about this letter that's been mailed to Jeffco property owners. It's a letter that states, the very second sentence of the letter is from Vesper Properties. It's mainly going to people that don't have an escrow account paying their taxes, that they're paying their taxes directly, mainly seniors, if they've already paid their property off. But the letter starts off with, "We are reaching out to your property," and that says, "According to public records, your property is currently subject to delinquent property taxes." And what I wanted to make a statement is that the Jefferson County Treasurer and all county treasurers never use a third-party billing system for property taxes. As of 2020 property taxes, they are not delinquent. In fact, they won't be delinquent until June 15th or June 30th. So if anybody gets this letter in the mail, it's from Vesper Properties, LLC. It's been covered by the Colorado Politics Organization and CBS 4. We had an interview with Karen Morfitt. Please double check and do not respond to this letter. What it is basically, it's a fast cash to buy your house. And it's the companies in Arizona. So the only legal document that you want to use to pay your taxes with is the Jefferson County Treasurer property tax bill, which you'll be getting in the mail. And we're only sending out one this year because of setting up postage and printing. But especially seniors, because the person that brought this to my attention was a senior who lives in Evergreen, and their house is paid off, and they also receive the senior exemption. And so there must be some cross-referencing between the state of Colorado and the senior property tax exemption and our property records. If you have any question about your property taxes, you can contact our office at 303-271-8330 if you receive this letter. And also you can contact on our website, the Jeffco website, you can find this information of where your property taxes stand. And right now, for 2020, nobody is delinquent. So it's really a scare tactic, I believe, in a lot of ways for our most vulnerable in the community. So also, I wanted to mention that as far as boards and commissions go, council has the prerogative to appoint or not appoint anybody they wish. That's part of the process, and sometimes you're the bug and sometimes you're the windshield, but in the end, the decisions are made, and those decisions are maintained. When I was on city council, there was a lot of people I voted for and against. I'm still friends with them or not, but you got to do what's best, what you think's for the city.
Thank you. That's all the speakers that I have signed up tonight. Is there anyone that hasn't signed up who would like to speak under public comment on any item not on the agenda? You're free to come to the podium now and speak. Is there anyone here that would like to do that? Okay, I don't see any, so we will close our public comment, and we will move to agenda item number 1. Ms. Hoppy, would you please introduce agenda item number 1?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm pleased to present the consent agenda item 1A, motion to approve a contribution to the Wheat Ridge Business District in the amount of $90,000 for a matching grant program.
This is a consent agenda item. A motion is in order, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move to approve consent agenda item 1A, motion to approve a contribution to the Wheat Ridge Business District in the amount of $90,000 for a matching grant program.
Second.
Motion made and second by Mr. Urban. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, will the clerk please poll the council?
Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you. We will go to agenda item number...
I'm sorry? I counted the lights.
Okay.
That's okay. Please revote. Motion still carries 4-0. 6-0. Sorry.
Okay, we're good to go on number 2? Okay, we will move to agenda item number 2. Mr. Urban, please introduce this item.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council Bill number 04-2020, an ordinance amending Chapter 26 of the Wheat Ridge Code of Laws pertaining to the design and platting of multifamily development and attached single-family homes, case number ZOA-20-02. At issue historically, the zoning code has treated attached single-family dwellings or townhomes as generally multifamily development, and very few standards relate specifically to the townhome building form. Given the increased prevalence of townhomes and the steady inquiry staff continues to receive, this code amendment updates certain provisions that specifically apply to the design and platting of attached single-family dwellings.
Thank you. This is a public hearing, an ordinance on second reading. It is not quasi-judicial. I'm going to open the public hearing. And Mr. Johnstone, do we have a staff presentation on this item?
Yes, the city's planning manager, Ms. Lauren Mikulak, will be presenting tonight.
Thank you. Ms. Mikulak, please continue.
Thank you. Good evening. I would like to enter into the public record the contents of the case file, the zoning ordinance, the comprehensive plan, and this presentation. All appropriate notification requirements have been met, and City Council does have jurisdiction to hear this code amendment case. I don't have many slides tonight, but I do want to provide a quick reminder of the context and the purpose of this code amendment. It hasn't changed much since you saw it last in study session on January 6th. For the purpose of this presentation, I'll use the term townhomes, but again, I'm referring to any attached side-by-side single-family dwelling like you see in the image on the bottom left. In Wheat Ridge, as was noted, we've seen an increase in townhome development over the last 5 to 10 years in a variety of locations and sizes throughout the city. This trend certainly furthers the city's adopted goals of diversifying the housing stock, and this ordinance presents an opportunity to further ensure that townhomes are high-quality additions to the community. As council knows, there are currently in the code 3 zone districts that allow for townhomes, mixed-use zones, planned residential developments, and straight residential zone districts such as R3. And in each of those districts, we regulate design slightly differently, either through the mixed-use code, a property-specific outline development plan, like what you see in the middle image, or the architectural and site design manual. It's a separate document that supplements the zoning code. This code amendment is a follow-up again to that study session where we discussed platting and design issues that are specifically unique to townhome building forms. We have robust design standards in place, but staff is just seeking this additional leverage that will ensure townhomes fit into the neighborhood context as appropriately as possible. So these are the 4 provisions that we had talked about earlier in this year. This code amendment will, number 1, require that front facades, those with front doors, be oriented to the street. That ensures that pedestrian features engage the public realm, which is more typical of a residential neighborhood. Number 2, it adds roofline variation as a means to achieving articulation. Number 3, the code amendment includes provisions requiring variation in plane depth. What we mean by that is changes in the building that would create shadow lines and visual interest, particularly along the long side of a building. That's something that we already require of large multifamily buildings and commercial structures, but in this case would specifically now be required for townhomes. And number 4, it establishes the maximum size for a townhome building to control for massing. Per your direction, that maximum is now set at 8 units per building. The 5th provision presented in this code amendment relates to platting. And as we discussed in January, the width of a townhome unit is determined by the width of the townhome lot, which is often established very early in the process. So for a variety of reasons, from buyer preference to drafting error or construction errors, those lot widths occasionally need to shift. We process that change through the lot line adjustment, and this code amendment would create a specific and very limited classification of plats that may be approved by staff. It's lot line adjustments for previously approved townhome plats that don't create new lots, don't alter the overall design, and otherwise comply with all zoning and subdivision standards. And this amendment specifically allows for a more efficient use of city resources, particularly for plat amendments that are minor or imperceptible in nature. In terms of process, as I mentioned, we discussed this topic in January, and we've proceeded as you directed staff. Because the code amendment does affect Chapter 26, the zoning code, the Planning Commission did have jurisdiction to review this code amendment, and they had a hearing on February 20th where they recommended approval by a vote of 8-0. There was no public comment during or in advance of that hearing, and then there's been no public comment in advance of this hearing either, including on Wheat Ridge Speaks, and ultimately staff is recommending approval of the ordinance. I'm happy to take your questions.
Thank you. Before we go to questions of council, I would like to open the hearing up to public comment. I have no one signed up to speak on this issue. Is there anyone here who is not signed up who would like to speak on item number 2? You may do so now. And Ms. Archer, if you would please reintroduce yourself and give us your address for the record, please.
Dorothy Archer, 3640 Marshall Street. I'm not 100% knowledgeable of the presentation here, but my concern is addressing rezoning of residential areas. Is that what it sounds like to me?
Yes.
I hope not. Are we looking at what I call pocket dwellings, where you can slide in units in between houses? I hope not. As I've already addressed the responsibility of staff to protect the zoning that we have today. Also forgot to bring up the fact, reading the paper many times, of the areas that have brought about the metropolitan situation that was brought up for the Upton Street situation is not working real well. In many areas where they have introduced that, it is not working well. So you might just tuck that back in your head for future as contractors come in and would like to rezone for density. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to come and speak on this item? Okay, I'm going to close the public hearing portion of this hearing and open it up to questions of council from staff. Mr. Urban.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would just want staff to potentially clarify as it relates to the public comment that this is a proposal relating to the design and platting of particular plots, but not on any rezoning or zoning issue, correct?
I can take that one. It's a good clarification. So the code amendment will add more strict design standards where townhomes are allowed already, so not changing where townhomes are permitted and not changing anything related to the zoning. I think one of the concerns that Ms. Archer might have been mentioning was the slot home design pattern, which is something we talked in the study session. Having design standards like this that require more of a neighborhood orientation and a front door facing the street is specifically to ensure that we don't have that type of development pattern here in Wheat Ridge.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Additional questions from council? And I'm going to close the public hearing, and a motion is in order.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move to approve Council Bill number 04-2020, an ordinance amending Chapter 26 of the Wheat Ridge Code of Laws pertaining to the design and platting of multifamily development and attached single-family homes on second reading, and that it take effect 15 days after final publication.
Second.
Got a second by Ms. Weaver, not Mr. Urban. Is there discussion? Is there discussion on the motion? Seeing none, will the deputy clerk please poll the council?
Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you. We will go to agenda item number 3. Ms. Hutchinson, would you please introduce this item?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Resolution number 15-2020, a resolution approving a major subdivision plat on property zoned mixed-use neighborhood MUN and located at 6230 West 38th Avenue, case number WS-1804, Wang subdivision.
Thank you. This is a public hearing. It is a resolution. It is quasi-judicial. I'm going to open the public hearing. If you intend to speak on this item, I need to swear you in. If you intend to speak, would you please rise and raise your right hand? Please stand. Do you swear to tell the truth in this matter as you understand it? If you do, please answer, I do. Thank you. You may be seated. Mr. Johnstone, do we have a staff presentation on this item?
Ms. Mikulak has this case as well.
Ms. Mikulak, please proceed.
Thank you. Again, Lauren Mikulak for the record. I'll be presenting this case, and I would like to enter into the public record, again, the contents of this case file, the subdivision regulations, and this digital presentation. This property is within the city of Wheat Ridge. All appropriate notification and posting requirements have been met, and city council does have jurisdiction to hear this case. So we'll start this one with a 2018 aerial where you can see the subject property outlined here in red. The site is approximately 2/3 of an acre in size, about 29,000 square feet, and it's part of the Conway subdivision located on 38th Avenue between Kendall Street and J Street. The site's currently vacant, as you can tell from the aerial, but it did contain a home about 10 years ago. And the surrounding area is a mix of uses containing everything from high-rise residential to the west, to commercial, to apartments, to single-family homes. In this excerpt of the zoning map, you can see that the subject site is colored blue. That's our mixed-use neighborhood zone district, and most of the properties on 38th Avenue are zoned MUN. That was part of a corridor-wide rezoning several years ago. The other colors that you see on this image, the yellow and orange, R1C and R3, those are residential zone districts to the south and east, and those mostly contain single-family homes. That green color, the planned residential development, that's the 12-story Highlands West senior living facility. And then the mixed-use neighborhood zone district, as you know, permits a mix of uses that include both residential and office uses. Tonight we're looking only at a subdivision, and the subdivision regulations are found in Article 4 of the Zoning Code in Chapter 26. A subdivision plat is a technical document. It reconfigures lots and tracts and parcels, and it's used to prepare land for sale or development. As council knows, a subdivision plat does not affect the zoning, nor does it affect the permitted uses on the property. It enables development of land for uses that are already permitted by the existing zoning. In this particular case, the site development plan has already been approved, and it's not subject to review by council. This is a townhome plat, so you get an inkling of what that site plan looks like, but we're really here just to talk about that reconfiguration of lots and establishment of easements. The specific purpose tonight for this particular application is to create legal lots for townhomes and an office building, so 15 lots in total. Both townhomes and office building are permitted uses in that existing mixed-use neighborhood zoning. The platting of the lots will allow the townhomes to be sold separately and will ensure that appropriate easements are in place to serve both of those types of uses. For the remainder of my presentation, I want to walk you through some of those features of the subdivision. So what we're looking at now is sheet 2 of that plat document. We're zoomed in a little bit just on that graphic portion. We turned the image here to fit better on the screen. So north is to the left, 38th Avenue is here on the left side of the screen. In this particular image, those orange lines are highlighting the new lot lines. Lot 15, the largest of the lots on the north side against 38th Avenue, would be sized to accommodate a commercial building oriented to the street. And lots 1 to 14 at the rear are sized to accommodate townhomes. In this image, the gray shading denotes the alley access that would provide access both to the parking for the commercial property and access to the townhome lots. That gray shaded alley is located within access and utility easements, and it has platted access all the way to the 38th Avenue right-of-way. It also accommodates in size the required turnaround that's necessary for the fire department. This image also shows thinner light blue lines. Those are the sidewalks, so you get a sense of what that circulation looks like. In this image, the blue L-shaped shading is denoting the drainage easement. So it's accommodating drainage in an underground detention facility in Lot 15. It's located underneath the paved areas that would be served also for access and parking. Tract A, on the south side of the lot, outlined here in yellow, is designated as open space, and it's also partially encumbered by utility easements. And on the east side of the property, you see more green shading where there's also a landscaped utility easement. This isn't the site plan, so this diagram doesn't show the entirety of landscaped areas, only those that are defined by easements or unbuildable areas. In terms of process, like we do for all subdivisions, we're not a full-service city, so we sent the application on referral to outside agencies. That includes fire, water, sanitation, Excel, energy. We also completed an internal review, and there are no remaining comments on this application. Both the planning and engineering divisions have found the plat to be approvable. At the February 20th meeting, the Planning Commission recommended approval of this request. And before the hearing tonight, the property was posted for 15 days, and we sent the letter to property owners within 300-foot radius. We haven't received any comments, either in person, in writing, or on Wheat Ridge Speaks. Ultimately, staff has concluded that this subdivision plat meets the subdivision regulations and that all agencies can serve the property. It allows development of the site as permitted by the underlying zoning and consistent with the approved site plan. And for those reasons, staff is recommending approval of the request. That concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer questions. The applicant is in attendance. They don't have a presentation, but they too are available if you have questions.
Thank you. Before we go to questions from council, I will open this to questions from the public or public comment on this. I have no one signed up to speak. Is there anyone here who is not signed up who would like to come forth and speak on this item? You may do so now. I don't see anyone coming up, so we will close our public comment and open this up for questions from council of staff. Before I close the public hearing, are there any questions? Ms. Hutchins.
I'm new to this MUN. So it seems like, so the decision about what these townhomes, what this is going to look like, is going to be between the city and the developer and not the public. Is that true?
Ms. Mikulak?
Yes, so in the mixed-use zone districts, if the use is permitted by the zoning and if it complies with all of the design standards, then site development review is a process that is approved by staff only.
So didn't we just vote to where townhomes, the front doors were to face the street?
That's a good question. That came up in Planning Commission. It's a little confusing when we bring two seemingly related cases. The code amendment says that when the units are adjacent to the street, they need to be oriented to the street, but the intent was not to preclude mixed-use developments such as this. So if it was reversed and the townhome units were closer to the street than the commercial building, then certainly they would have to meet that requirement. But in this case, the office building is creating that street frontage because it's a mixed-use development. So it does comply with the code amendment that you reviewed earlier and with the current code.
Is that written down? Because I don't remember seeing that, that there could be variances on what we just voted for?
So the previous code amendment that we just voted for is articulated in such a way where the unit is if the residential townhome unit is adjacent to the street. In this case, it's not, because it's the office building that's adjacent to the street.
I know that there would be different come up so that there can be, different allowances, like right now. Is that in there what we just voted for?
I guess I'm not clear on the question.
I guess the thing is, we don't want slot homes.
Right.
Okay? So what we just voted for, does it state on the paperwork that we just voted for, that there can be exclusions to what we just voted for? Because I'm taking it where townhomes should have front door facings to the street.
Sure, so it's a little bit of a nuance, but the code amendment that you just voted on is for if the townhome is adjacent to the street. So it says, for units adjacent to public streets, the front door shall be located on the facade that faces the public street. This isn't a unit adjacent to the public street because it's a mixed-use development, and the townhomes will be located away, not adjacent to the public street. So it's just a matter of, each site design is different. Our code allows you to have commercial activity adjacent to the street, so they're just not exactly related.
Okay, and I have another question, and I don't know if I can ask this or not. I can ask anything, is that right? Not get arrested or anything? I don't know. Is this going to be a metro district?
No, there's been no request for metro district on this project.
Thank you. Are there further questions for staff on this item before I close the public hearing and ask for a motion? I'm going to close the public hearing, and Ms. Hutchinson, would you please provide a motion on this item?
Okay. I move to approve resolution number 15-2020, a resolution approving a major subdivision plat on property zone mixed-use neighborhood MUN and located at 6230 West 38th Avenue for the following reasons. City Council has conducted a proper public hearing that meets all public notice requirements as required by Section 26-109 and 26-407 of the Code of Laws. 2, the requested subdivision has been reviewed by the Planning Commission, which has forwarded its recommendation of approval. 3, the subdivision plat has been found in compliance with Article 4 of Chapter 26 of the Code of Laws. And 4, the agencies can provide services to the property with improvements installed at the developer's expense. And with the following conditions, prior to issuance of building permits, the applicant shall pay the required fees in lieu of parkland dedication. 2, the developer shall enter into a subdivision improvement agreement and a lot sale restriction covenant agreement prior to recordation of the subdivision plat. And 3, prior to issuance of building permits, the developer shall provide owner association covenants for review by staff.
Second.
We have a motion and a second by Mr. Stites. Is there discussion on the motion? Seeing none, will the clerk please poll the council?
Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you. We will go to agenda item number 4. Mr. Stites, would you please introduce this item?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council Bill number 05-2020, an ordinance approving an amendment to the existing planning mixed-use development, PMUD, zoning to increase the allowable height for hospital uses at Clear Creek Crossing, case number WZ-19-10. At issue, the applicant is requesting to modify the underlying zoning to increase the allowable height for hospital uses. A hospital is already permitted use in the existing zoning, and the existing zoning also contemplated 6-story employment uses. However, a hospital built to 6 stories requires an additional 12 feet of height to meet design requirements and current building codes. The applicant is also seeking a limited additional height allowance to accommodate a rooftop elevator associated with a helipad.
Thank you. This is an ordinance on first reading to set the time, date, and location for a public hearing. Mr. Stites, may I have a motion on this item?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move to approve Council Bill number 05-2020, an ordinance approving an amendment to the existing planned mixed-use development, PMUD, zoning to increase the allowable height for hospital uses at Clear Creek Crossing on first reading for the sole purpose of ordering it published for a public hearing set for Monday, April 13th, 2020 at 7 p.m. in City Council chambers, and if adopted, that it take effect 15 days after final publication.
Second.
We have a motion and a second by Ms. Hoppy. Will the clerk please poll the council?
Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you. We will go to item number 5. Ms. Weaver, would you please introduce this item?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council Bill number 06-2020, an ordinance approving the rezoning of property located at 9800 West 38th Avenue from a residential 1 R1 to planned residential development, PRD, with an outline development plan, ODP. This is case number WZ-19-07/Hardy, Hardi. At issue, the applicant is requesting the approval of a zone change from residential 1 to planned residential development within a ODP for property located at 9800 West 38th Avenue, at the southeast corner of West 38th Avenue and Johnson Street. The purpose of this request is to prepare the property for the development of 4 single-family homes and 3 duplexes for a total of 10 dwelling units.
Thank you. This is an ordinance on first reading to set the date, time, and location for a public hearing. May I have a motion, please, Ms. Weaver?
Yes, you may. I move to approve Council Bill 06-2020, an ordinance approving the rezoning of property located at 9800 West 38th Avenue from residential 1 to planned residential development with a outline development plan on first reading for the sole purpose of ordering it published for a public hearing set for Monday, April 13th, 2020 at 7 p.m. in City Council chambers, and if adopted, it take effect 15 days after final publication.
Second.
Second by Mr. Urban.
No, Mr. Stites.
No? Didn't say a word. Okay, well, you know, Mr. Stites, you got it again, okay? My apologies. This is an ordinance on first reading. Would the clerk please poll the council?
Yeah, throwing his voice.
Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you very much. We will go to agenda item number 6. Ms. Nosler-Beck.
Thanks, Mayor. This is Council Bill number 07-2020, an ordinance vacating any interest held by the city in a portion of Youngfield Service Road, a public roadway. At issue is the city of Wheat Ridge holds rights of way in trust for the public. A portion of right of way, or ROW, at the north end of Youngfield Service Road, located on the west side of Interstate 70, has been deemed to be unnecessary by the Engineering Division and is proposed to be vacated.
Thank you. This is an ordinance on first reading to set the date, time, and location for a public hearing. Ms. Nosler-Beck, may I have a motion on this item?
I move to approve Council Bill number 07-2020, an ordinance vacating any interest held by the city in a portion of Youngfield Service Road, a public roadway on first reading. Order it published, public hearing set for Monday, April 13th, 2020 at 7 p.m. in City Council chambers. Ooh. And that it take effect 15 days after final publication.
Second.
I have a motion and a second by Ms. Hoppy. This is an ordinance on first reading. Will the clerk please poll the council?
Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you. That concludes our agenda items on tonight's meeting. We will now go to city manager's matters. Mr. Johnstone, anything tonight?
I do have one. Wanted to let council know that in response to the coronavirus situation, we did issue some administrative guidelines for our city employees, dealing with mostly best practices in terms of personal hygiene and how that interface occurs with our customers as well. We've also posted a great number of signs kind of in the common areas of the building to kind of communicate that to both the public and to staff to be mindful of those personal hygiene approaches. We also were able to secure a variety of cleaning products to assist in that effort. We do have some face masks if we have concerns that a customer maybe didn't come in the healthiest of situations, so that would be an option for them to choose to do something, use something like that. So really, best practices, I think. Also encouraging employees to not come in, err on the side of caution if they feel like they may be witnessing symptoms. And then additionally, encouraging employees to use our existing flex time policies if that's appropriate in some of those situations, that they can maybe flex their work from home if they are erring on the side of caution. So some of the things that we're just kind of implementing, I think, to be responsive to the emerging situation.
Thank you. City Attorney's matters, Mr. Dahl.
Nothing tonight, thank you.
Thank you very much. Our clerk is out of town today, as is our city manager. And for that matter, two of our counselors are at the National League of Cities in Washington, D.C., representing our city there. So I will go to the counselors who remain at the dais. Ms. Nosler-Beck.
Thanks, Mayor. It's been lonely over here. I'm missing my colleagues. I just wanted to let you know that I'm not going to be here next week for the study session. As we get for the retreat, I had a planned vacation, and that was before I was elected in. So I won't be here, but I'll keep Congresswoman, City Council person, Hoppy up to speed on anything that I have in terms of updates.
Thank you. Mr. Stites.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I had a constituent reach out to me, and it's something I've noticed as well, and I sent an email to Patrick about it, but there's a lot of shopping carts now being left at the corner of 38th and Ward. I assume because they moved the RTD bus stop, the first stop is now right at that corner, right in front of a house there. This constituent and several of my neighbors, that's my neighborhood, we're wondering if there's something we can do about it. Maybe if we can have RTD either move the bus stop back to the Youngfield shopping center there, or if we can, I don't know, get the city crews out there to pick them up and send them back, or if we need to talk to the managers at the stores. I'm not sure what we need to do, but if there's something we can do about that, that would be great.
Thank you. Ms. Hutchinson.
I'd like to thank all the people who came up and spoke tonight, and that's all. Keep washing your hands.
Thank you. Mr. Urban.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There was an item that I brought up with the city attorney this week regarding the types of meetings that we're able to have as city council, and the concern that I have relates to the council rules of procedures that indicate that all council meetings must be held within the municipal building. And so I'd like us to consider at the earliest possible date an amendment of our rules and procedures as it relates to allowing, as prescribed within Robert's Rules of Order, an e-meeting or electronic meeting that would be held auditorily via a teleconference in the event that we were not able to meet in person or that we needed to meet, but for a variety of reasons not able to do that in person. And so the Robert's Rules of Order already outline and prescribe for various rules within which e-meeting can occur. Our current council rules specifically delineate where we must meet, and also as it relates to the different public hearings we have, it also indicates that the hearing will be held in city council chambers. So there will be several elements to this that we need to flush out, but I'd like to see if we can get that either. I don't know if we need a study session for that, or if the city attorney can chime in as far as, you know, how much how much we have to do to make this happen, or can we just suspend the rules to have a teleconference, or what would be the next step as it relates to this?
Sure. Well, as council knows, it can always suspend the rules, and in my opinion, you'd be able to do that, to have a teleconference. What we might consider doing, and I'm happy to begin preparing these documents, is a formal amendment to the council rules so that we're going to have to suspend and it's in place. In addition to that, I think it will be important for me to spend some time with staff to talk about the ability from an IT standpoint to allow the public to attend. Because of course you can have a meeting, but when you're having a public meeting, even if it's an electronic meeting, which the open meetings law allows and contemplates, as you well know. In fact, I often advise you, no reply to all, because you're creating a public meeting. But in the event that you need to do that, where I'm headed is the public needs to be advised of it and able to witness that meeting. And that's not impossible, and there are other jurisdictions, I think, that have protocols for that. We don't, but it's a likely time to investigate that and just make sure that the IT backup for that is available. It's one thing to set up a conference call with the 9 of you and 4 or 5 others. We do that in our business all the time. But to allow the public to attend and still have access to the meeting is something I want to look into, and I'm happy to do that.
Thank you, and I appreciate that. That was one of my main concerns as it relates to making sure that it is a public and transparent meeting, and that citizens have the same ability that we have to participate. And while there's a lot of technology out there relating to video conferencing and whatnot, I think it would be appropriate if we stick to a teleconference type function, because that's the most basic or most accessible type of access. And we can talk about this at a later date, but I also want to make sure that it's synchronous, that it's done in real time, that we're doing it in that way, and that it also is relating to some emergency or other unusual circumstance, that it isn't something where we can always just phone it in. I don't want to see that happen. So making sure that we have some sort of basis or reason for in conducting an e-meeting. And then going back to the various motions that we made tonight, the language in that indicates that the public hearings will be held within city council chambers. So would there also be a phone in this room, or how do we massage that language, or do we need to in any way to contemplate an e-meeting?
Sure. Well, a couple of things. If a meeting's already been set and noticed for this location, and it comes to pass that it needs to be in another location or needs to be electronic, we would post an amended meeting notice, and we'd post that on the website, post it here, obviously, and it may be that we would need to extend the time. But we'd be able to do what we've done in the past, where we've had to change a meeting date or location for other reasons. We'd use that mechanism. In addition, I think we need to be, as you say, careful about making the public available, or making it available to the public at the simultaneous time, and whether that's a phone in this room, although then the public could be here en masse, and if the idea is to protect people from being with one another, then that protects you but not them, and I know you wouldn't want that. So that's why we need to think more about the kind of IT support for a call-in number. That's not impossible. We all have probably attended webinars that are set up that way, with muting facilities such that you're still able to do your work, but then there's the opportunity for people to participate. That's what I need to look into. I'm not an expert in that arena, but I know that's where we have to go. I'm not worried about re-noticing or amending the notice of a location or a time or mechanism for the meeting. We can do that because we do that already and for other purposes.
Okay. So as far as getting this on the calendar or scheduling it?
Ms. Hoppy?
Yeah. I would like to support Councilmember Urban's request that we do come up with some sort of backup plan, emergency backup plan. As I look at our schedule, next week, the study session is going to be a pretty long one already. However, on the regular business meeting of March 23rd is not very full, so we can see how it goes, either add a special study session to that day or bring it to the business meeting so we can discuss it and take action on it that night. And so yes, I'll work with getting that scheduled as soon as possible.
And then the only other item I had was asking what percentage of our staff has the capacity to work from home or work remotely? I imagine like the snow plows can't work remotely, but
yeah, certainly there's a number of positions that just isn't a viable option. But I'd say of the employees in City Hall, maybe a third have that option, and we have a flex policy in place that we actually recently updated, so it was good timing for that. But yeah, there's a number that can take advantage of that. I think it depends on IT things in large part. A pretty significant portion of our staff have Surface Pros so that they can take those home and work remotely to the extent that they're doing that type of work that requires them to be on email and accessing the city's Word documents, and all of our files are remotely accessible via the internet. So.
And just want to remind everybody to wash your hands at all times.
Well, unfortunately, our snowplow operators are not in close contact with too many other people. Okay. Ms. Weaver.
And I was just touching my face as you said that, so stop touching your face too. I just wanted to remind everyone that the census is live, and some things we learned last Monday at the census announcement. The census is online this year. You will get some flyers in the mail telling you about it, but they are not sending the long forms anymore. And you also will not get a call from the census. You may call them for various language translation, but kind of along the lines of what Mr. DiTullio was talking about, no one will reach out from the census with a phone call. They will not ask you for any sensitive information. It's just really important that we all fill it out for all of our public things that happen for schools and all those other things. So please be aware, and this is the month to do it. Go census.
Thank you. Ms. Hoppy?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would just like to remind our community that we have wheatridgespeaks.org, and I know that there are people who say it's difficult to be able to come to the Planning Commission meetings or to City Council meetings. This is your opportunity to be able to participate from home. So wheatridgespeaks.org, and just keep that in mind. We had a couple of things on our agenda tonight that were on there that had 0 comments. So I think that it's just a matter of people figuring it out. So thank you.
Thank you. I would like to always thank the people who came tonight to speak to council. It's always helpful to have your voices here with us. I had the pleasure to ride my bicycle today for the AT group in Writing to Read. We gathered books up on bicycles. There were 6 of us in our little band, and rode over to Wilmore Davis Elementary School and delivered about 700 books to a group of very happy elementary school kids, and they were thrilled to get the books. We were thrilled to have them there, and we ordered some great weather for today. So I want to really extend my thanks to the AT and their Writing to Read programs. Very beneficial for our young people. This next Saturday, we're having coffee with the mayor at Vinola's restaurant on 38th and not Yarrow, but Yukon perhaps, at 9 o'clock on Saturday morning. If you're able to join us, we'd love to have you there. I will remind council, I'm sure that everybody has filled out their survey and gotten it back on the 6th, but if you haven't, you might do that tonight after council meeting. And we will, council will be having a retreat in about 2 weeks. And I will echo the importance of the census and participating in that. It's a safe, effective way to do it, I think. And I'm not sure, Ms. Weaver said that no one would come by, but if you don't fill it out, eventually an enumerator will come to your door and talk to you about filling out the census. So if you don't want to be visited at your home,
With the long form.
please fill out the census. It helps us all. So is there any further business to come before the council? We will stand adjourned. Thank you.